The room was dimly lit, the soft glow of a single lamp casting long shadows on the walls. Emma sat at her small wooden desk, her fingers tracing the edges of a paintbrush. Her art supplies were scattered around her like scattered memories, some vibrant, some dull, but all containing fragments of who she was before life took a turn she never saw coming. She stared at the canvas in front of her, a landscape that had been started months ago, but left unfinished. The colors blurred, just like the hopes she once had. Emma had always dreamed of becoming a renowned artist, traveling the world, showcasing her work in galleries and finding joy in the brushstrokes that flowed so naturally from her hands. But now, all of that felt like a distant memory, buried beneath the weight of something much heavier. Cancer. The word still echoed in her mind like an unwelcome visitor. Emma had been diagnosed with breast cancer 6 months ago. The prognosis wasn't great. Chemotherapy had drained her energy, both physically and emotionally. She had lost her hair, her strength, and most of her hope, but what she hadn't lost was her passion for painting. It was the only thing that made her feel alive, even if only for a few hours each day. The bills had piled up faster than she could handle. The treatments, the medications, the endless doctor's appointments, everything required money she simply didn't have. She'd tried to get a loan, but no one was willing to help her. It was her reality now, painting to survive. Just sell a few paintings, Emma. Just a few, she whispered to herself, as if convincing herself that was enough. She had posted one of her best pieces on an online marketplace earlier that week, a vibrant, emotional portrait of a sunset over a city skyline. She had priced it lower than it was worth, but even then, no one had shown interest. She could feel the weight of disappointment settling in her chest. Suddenly, a notification pinged on her phone. She glanced at the screen, hoping it was something good, maybe even an inquiry about her artwork. But what she saw made her heart stop. Elon Musk is following you. Emma blinked, unsure if she had seen it right. The billionaire entrepreneur, the founder of SpaceX, Tesla, and so many other ventures, why would he follow her? She had never tagged him in any of her posts, never mentioned him in any of her comments. How did he even find her? She shook her head, pushing the thought aside. It had to be some sort of mistake, right? She couldn't afford to get distracted by this. Not when her chemotherapy treatment was coming up, and she still hadn't sold a single painting. She returned her attention to the canvas, dipping her brush into the mix of colors, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the notification. A few minutes of struggling to focus, she sighed in frustration and decided to check her social media notifications. There, right at the top, was a message. It wasn't from Elon Musk directly, but it was from someone on Twitter with a verified blue checkmark. Hey, I am a painter. I saw your post about your art and your health. I believe in supporting artists, especially those with such incredible talent. I'd love to help you out. Let me know what your next painting is. I'm interested in buying it. Best, Elon. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She reread the message, twice, then 3 times, before her mind could process what was happening. Elon Musk wants to buy my art? She whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. In that moment, the world seemed to pause. Everything she had been through, the pain, the fear, the loneliness, faded away, replaced by a strange sense of disbelief. Could this really be happening? Could the man who had revolutionized the tech world, who had launched rockets into space, really be interested in her art? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward even when things get tough? Emma sat back in her chair, staring at her phone as if it were a foreign object she couldn't quite understand. The message from Elon Musk was still on her screen, staring back at her like some sort of impossible dream. She could hardly believe it. A part of her wanted to pinch herself, to wake up from what felt like a fantasy. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she tried to come up with a response. What could she say to someone like him? What could a struggling artist say to a billionaire who could buy anything and everything he wanted? After a long pause, Emma took a deep breath and started typing. Hi Elon, thank you so much for reaching out. I honestly don't know what to say. I'm a painter and I've been selling my work to cover medical bills. I never imagined anyone like you would take an interest. I'd be honored if you'd like to buy my art. I'll be working on something new soon, and I'd love to send it to you if you're interested. Again, thank you for your kind words." She hit send before she could second-guess herself, her heart pounding in her chest. What if he didn't actually care? What if this was just some random act of kindness he did for all the struggling artists out there? She tried to push those doubts away. This was her chance, a real one. She couldn't afford to let it slip away. Seconds felt like hours as she waited for a reply. The room felt colder now, as if her body knew something she didn't. Emma glanced around at her art supplies, her unfinished paintings. She had been so consumed by survival these past few months that she hadn't given herself the chance to truly create. But now, there was hope. There was someone who saw her work, and that was something she hadn't felt in a long time. Just as she was about to put the phone down and distract herself, another notification popped up. Her pulse quickened. Elon Musk had replied, "Emma, I believe in helping people who are doing good things. Your story is inspiring. I'd love to buy your next piece, and I'd also like to help you with the treatment costs. If you're open to it, let's talk more about how I can support you." Her hands went numb as she read the message again. He wants to help with her treatment costs? This was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Emma had heard stories about celebrities and billionaires donating to causes, but she never thought it would happen to someone like her. She could hardly believe what she was reading, but deep down, she knew this was real. There was a part of her that feared it was some kind of mistake, but she couldn't let that fear stop her from grabbing the opportunity that had just dropped into her lap. For the first time in months, Emma allowed herself to feel something other than worry, hope. Her mind raced. What did this mean for her? What did this mean for her future? This wasn't just about paying for her chemotherapy. This was about being seen, being acknowledged. She had spent so long feeling invisible, like just another face in a crowd of countless others who were fighting their own battles. But now, here she was, connecting with one of the most well-known figures in the world. It was the ultimate validation. And yet it wasn't just about the money. It was about her art. She quickly typed back, "Thank you so much, Elon. I can't even express how much this means to me. I'm incredibly grateful. I'll start working on a new piece right away, and I'll keep you updated on the progress." Her fingers hovered over the send button once again. But this time, before she pressed it, she paused and thought for a moment. Could this really change her life? Was she ready for the unknown? She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and hit send. As Emma set her phone down on the desk, she felt a mixture of emotions flood over her: nervousness, disbelief, excitement. But more than anything, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: purpose. The next few days passed in a blur. She spent every waking moment working on her new painting. Her brushstrokes were no longer filled with doubt or fear. This time, her art was fueled by something bigger than just herself. She painted with passion, with energy, and with the quiet knowledge that her work might one day inspire others, just as Elon Musk had inspired her. She didn't know what the future would hold, but she knew one thing for sure: this was only the beginning. The road ahead might still be filled with challenges, but for the first time in a long time, Emma felt ready to face whatever came next. The following day, Emma received another message from Elon. "Emma, I'm excited to see your new painting. I've been thinking, I want to help other artists like you. Would you be interested in doing a joint project? I'm launching a new charity initiative, and I think your story could inspire so many others." Her heart raced again. Not only was he still interested in her art, but now he wanted to work with her on a bigger project. Emma felt the weight of the world shift just a little. The impossible was starting to feel a little more possible. Emma had barely finished her breakfast when her phone buzzed again. She picked it up and saw the name Elon Musk flashing on her screen. Her heart skipped a beat. Every notification, every message from him felt surreal, like she was living in someone else's story. But it was real. "Good morning, Emma. I just wanted to let you know I've arranged for the first half of the funds for your treatment. Please check your account when you get a chance. Looking forward to seeing what you create next." Emma stared at the message, her fingers frozen above the screen. Her heart thudded in her chest as she navigated to her bank account. She couldn't believe it. There, sitting in her account, was a large sum of money, enough to cover her medical expenses for the next several months. It was more than she had ever imagined. She felt a rush of relief, but it quickly gave way to something else. Guilt. Was I worth this? She'd never been one to accept charity easily. She'd always believed in earning everything herself. The idea that someone she didn't even know, someone with more money than she could ever dream of, was essentially handing her a lifeline, made her feel conflicted. But then she remembered her mother's voice. "You've got to let people help you when they offer, honey. It's how we make it through the tough times. We're not meant to do it all alone." Still, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she wasn't seeing clearly, something behind this sudden generosity. Was it just about helping her, or was there something more to it? She had heard the rumors about Elon Musk, about his grand ideas and bold visions. Was he trying to use her story for his own gain? Did he expect something in return? But that wasn't like him, was it? She didn't know him personally, but from what she had seen, he was known for taking risks and doing things that others might call impossible. The question gnawed at her, but before she could dwell on it too much, her phone buzzed again. It was a direct message from Elon. "Emma, I know you're probably feeling overwhelmed right now, but I want you to know this. I don't do things for publicity. I saw your story and your art. It moved me. I've helped a lot of people, but your authenticity stood out to me. If this is going to make your life better, that's enough for me. I'll always be here to support your journey." Her breath caught in her throat. Authenticity. Those words echoed in her mind. He saw her. Not as a cancer patient, not as someone struggling, but as an artist, someone whose work had meaning, whose story was worth telling. For the first time, Emma began to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone cared about her for more than just her illness. But the questions were still there. What's in this for him? She wasn't naive enough to believe that anyone with that much power and influence didn't have an agenda. People like him didn't do things without expecting something in return, right? Over the next few days, Emma tried to keep her focus on her art, but the conflict inside her continued to grow. On one hand, she was incredibly grateful for Elon's help. The weight of her medical bills had been unbearable, and now she could focus on her treatment without fear of drowning in debt. But on the other hand, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. Her phone rang again, and this time it wasn't a message. It was a call. It was from Elon's assistant. "Hello, is this Emma?" A calm, professional voice asked. "Yes, this is she." "Great. Elon has been following your progress, and we'd like to discuss a potential collaboration further. He has some ideas for a charity initiative that could not only help you but also help other struggling artists. It's a chance for you to make a bigger impact with your work. Can we schedule a time to discuss it?" Emma felt a wave of anxiety hit her. A charity initiative. She didn't know what to think. On one hand, this could be an incredible opportunity to showcase her work on a larger scale, but on the other, it felt like a line was being crossed. She wasn't sure if she was ready for her life to be publicly tied to someone like Elon Musk. But then she thought about her art, about her dream of reaching people, of using her work to inspire others. Maybe this was the opportunity she had been waiting for all along. "I'm open to hearing more," Emma finally said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "Perfect," the assistant replied. "I'll send over the details for a meeting tomorrow. Talk soon." The following day, Emma found herself standing outside a sleek conference room in a building she had only seen in photos. The glass walls, the modern decor. It was like stepping into another world, one that seemed so far removed from the small apartment she had been fighting to survive in. She was about to walk into a meeting that could change everything. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. Am I ready for this? She had come this far, but the stakes were getting higher. The more she thought about the upcoming conversation, the more she realized that she wasn't just battling cancer anymore. She was battling fear, the fear of stepping into a world that was unknown and unfamiliar. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the message her art could send, the lives her story could touch. As she walked into the room, she tried to push the doubt aside. She wasn't just Emma, the girl with cancer. She was Emma, the artist. And no matter how scary this new chapter seemed, she was going to embrace it. She had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was clear. She was no longer in control of just her art. She was now part of something much bigger, and the future, for better or worse, was unfolding in front of her. The conference room felt sterile. The sleek white walls, the minimalist furniture, the soft hum of the air conditioning, it all felt so detached from the world she had known. Emma shifted uncomfortably in her chair, trying to calm her nerves. She had never been in a room like this before, let alone one where Elon Musk's assistant would be sitting across from her, explaining a new opportunity that could change her life forever. She glanced at her phone one more time, double-checking the details of the meeting. It was all so surreal. She could hardly believe she was here. The door opened and in walked a man in his early 30s wearing a sharp suit. He looked polished, confident. This must be his assistant, Emma thought. She stood as he approached and extended his hand. Hi. I'm Matt, Elon's right-hand man. Thanks for coming today. I hope you're doing well. Hi, Matt. I'm doing all right, considering everything, she said, her voice wavering slightly. She quickly adjusted, gathering her thoughts. Thanks for having me. It's a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Matt smiled sympathetically. I completely understand. This is a big deal and I'm sure it feels like a lot to take in, but don't worry. We're here to make sure this is a good fit for you. He sat down across from her and placed a tablet on the table. Let's dive right in. Elon is incredibly excited about your art and your story. We've been following your journey, and we believe there's a way to use your talents to do something bigger than just art. There's a new charity initiative Elon's launching, something that aligns with his passion for helping people who want to make a difference, and especially those in the arts community. Emma's heart began to race. A charity initiative. She couldn't help the skepticism that crept into her voice. I don't know much about how these things work, but why me? Why would someone like Elon Musk want to support my art? Matt leaned forward, his expression serious. It's not just about the art, Emma. It's about the person behind it. We see your struggle, your resilience, and how you've been using your talent to survive, literally. What we want to do is create a platform where artists like you are given the support and visibility they deserve. This isn't just about making money. It's about changing lives. And it's about getting people the help they need, whether that's through art sales, medical funding, or something more. Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. It sounds too good to be true. She had never imagined something like this could happen to her. But then a small voice inside her whispered, "Don't close the door yet. This could be everything you've ever wanted." "What does this platform look like?" she asked cautiously. Matt's smile returned, though it was tempered with sincerity. Well, Elon wants to create a network of artists who are not just in it for fame or money, but because they have a message, a purpose. We want to help them find their voice, amplify their reach, and make sure they're seen. But more importantly, we want to connect them with people who can make a real difference in their lives. This includes financial backing for their health or personal needs, grants to further their art, and even the possibility of collaborations with other high-profile projects. Emma's breath caught in her throat. This could be it. This could be the break I've been waiting for. But then, the nagging voice in her mind returned. What's the catch? She swallowed her doubt, focusing instead on the possibility of what this could mean. And how does it work? Do I just keep painting and you guys provide the rest? Matt nodded. Exactly. The idea is that you focus on your art and we'll take care of the rest. If you're open to it, we want you to be one of the first artists to join this program. We'll help you with your treatment costs, and in return, we'll help promote your work, your story. The idea is for you to have the freedom to create without worrying about your bills or anything else. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she processed his words. Everything sounded perfect, too perfect. The cynic in her wondered if there was a hidden agenda behind it all. But the artist in her, the one who had always dreamed of something bigger, couldn't deny the pull of this opportunity. She had spent her whole life feeling like she was just scraping by, barely making ends meet. And now, Here was an offer that could change everything. I think I'm interested, Emma said slowly, weighing her words. But I need to know more. What do you expect from me? What's the catch? Matt's gaze softened. No catch, just your commitment. Commitment to your art, commitment to the platform, and willingness to be part of something larger than just yourself. We want to share your story, your journey, with the world. We want people to see the incredible strength you have, and we want to make sure you get the help you need. The sincerity in his voice was hard to ignore. Emma could see that he wasn't just another corporate suit trying to make a deal. He genuinely believed in what he was saying. Still, Emma couldn't shake her doubt. What does Elon want from me in the end? Before she could ask any more questions, Matt continued, "And if you're ready, we can also begin setting up the first joint project with you. We're looking at a series of limited edition art pieces that will be auctioned off for the charity. It's a great way for you to get your work out there, raise awareness and give back." The weight of what Matt was saying began to sink in. This wasn't just about her survival anymore. It was about something bigger, something that could potentially change the lives of many others too. She took a deep breath. "All right, I'm in. Let's do this." Matt smiled. "I'm glad to hear that, Emma. We'll make sure everything is taken care of. I'll arrange the next steps and we'll be in touch soon with the details." As the meeting wrapped up and Emma left the building, she couldn't help but feel a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. She had agreed to something that could change her life, but was she ready for what it all entailed? She didn't know. But as she stepped out into the bustling city streets, she realized that her future no longer felt as uncertain. She had a purpose again. And for the first time in a long time, Emma allowed herself to believe that she wasn't just surviving, she was living. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. Emma barely had time to process everything that had happened. The offer from Elon Musk's team was almost too good to be true. She found herself in a limbo of hope and fear, both drawn to the idea of a new life and wary of what it might require from her. The details of the charity initiative were quickly set into motion. A portion of her upcoming art sale was going to fund her cancer treatment, while the rest would be auctioned for the charity. Her paintings were being curated for a large exhibition that would be seen by art lovers and philanthropists from all over the world. It was everything she had dreamed of and more, but the deeper she got into the process, the more she began to feel a weight settle on her chest. With each step forward, there was the feeling that she was losing something or someone. The constant flurry of phone calls, meetings, and messages left her exhausted. The chemotherapy sessions were taking their toll. She had days when getting out of bed seemed impossible, let alone painting or attending a conference call about her future. But there were moments, brief moments, when she allowed herself to dream of a life beyond cancer, beyond survival. On one particularly difficult morning, after waking up to the news that her mother's health had taken a sudden turn for the worse, Emma felt the weight of it all hit her hard. The medical bills, her mother's condition, the looming exhibition, and the charity initiative, it was all too much. She hadn't been able to paint for days, her emotions a tangled mess of grief, anxiety and guilt. But then she received a message that jolted her back to reality. It was from Elon. "Emma, I know things must be overwhelming right now, but I just wanted to remind you of something important. You've got a purpose here, and we believe in what you're doing. Don't lose sight of that. When things get tough, just remember, you're not alone. We've got your back." His words, simple as they were, cut through the noise. She felt tears well up in her eyes, a wave of gratitude and vulnerability flooding her heart. She wasn't just an artist. She wasn't just a patient. She was a person with something valuable to contribute to the world. But as the days passed and the weight of her responsibilities pressed down harder on her, Emma began to feel that something else was at play, something unexpected. One evening, Emma found herself pacing the length of her apartment, clutching her phone in her hand. She had just received another email from the team, confirming the details of the upcoming exhibition, but there was something in the tone of the email that unsettled her. It was subtle, but there was a change in the way they spoke to her, like they were more focused on the sale, on the publicity, than on her well-being. It made her question everything. Had this all been about the art? Or had it been about something else, something deeper? She scrolled through the messages again, reading between the lines, trying to make sense of it all. It wasn't the help she resented, or even the exposure. It was the feeling that she was losing control over her own story. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. It was her best friend, Grace, standing in the doorway with a concerned look on her face. She had been a constant source of support. During Emma's treatment, always there when she needed a shoulder to cry on or someone to laugh with. "Hey, I thought I'd stop by and check in," Grace said softly, stepping inside. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." Emma didn't have to say a word. Grace could always tell when something was wrong. "I'm fine," Emma said, her voice lacking conviction. "It's just a lot." Grace gave her a knowing look. "I get it. All of it. But listen, Emma, you've got to stop doing this to yourself. You've worked your entire life for this. This is your chance to do something big. Don't let fear steal it from you." Emma looked at her friend, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. But it's not just fear, Emma thought. It's the feeling that everything is slipping away, even the things I thought I could control. "I don't know if I can handle all of it," Emma admitted, her voice trembling. "The pressure, the expectations. I feel like I'm losing myself in all of it. Like I'm not even painting for myself anymore, it's all for everyone else." Grace's expression softened, and she moved closer, putting an arm around Emma. "You're still you, Emma. The woman I've known for years, the artist who's always painted from her heart. You've just got to remember why you started this. In the first place." Emma closed her eyes for a moment, letting Grace's words sink in. The weight of her struggle, the stress of the new opportunities, the pressure of living up to the expectations, suddenly it all felt too heavy. But Grace was right. She had started this journey because of her art, because it was a way to express herself, to make sense of a world that felt chaotic and unpredictable. And in the midst of everything, that truth, the core of who she was, had been drowned out by the noise. She had to find her way back to it. With a deep breath, Emma wiped away the tears she hadn't even realized had fallen. She turned to Grace, a small but determined smile on her face. "I'm going to do it," Emma said quietly. "I'm going to find a way to do it on my terms. I can't let everything else take over. I have to stay true to myself." Grace smiled back, relief washing over her. "That's the Emma I know." The next day, Emma made a decision. She called Matt from Elon's team and requested a meeting. When he answered, she said with more confidence than she had felt in days, "I want to be part of the initiative, but I need to do it on my terms. I need to stay connected to my art. How do why I'm doing this, and I won't compromise that." There was a brief pause on the other end, but Matt's voice was steady when he replied, "We'll make sure that happens, Emma. Your authenticity is what we're all about." In that moment, Emma felt a surge of clarity. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living, and now she was ready to reclaim her story. But as the pieces began to fall into place, Emma had no idea that the most unexpected twist of all was just around the corner. As the weeks went by, Emma found herself grappling with a new sense of purpose. The art exhibition was rapidly approaching, and every moment felt like a delicate balancing act between her health, her art, and her newfound role in the charity initiative. She continued painting, though the sessions were sometimes interrupted by fatigue or the weight of her treatments. But with each brushstroke, Emma felt like she was reclaiming her life, her identity as an artist, as a woman, as someone who had faced death and come out the other side. She spent long hours in her small apartment, working on a series of new pieces that felt more personal than anything she had ever done before. Each painting was a reflection of the journey she had taken, the battles, the heartbreak, the moments of hope that had carried her through it all. The colors were bold, the brushstrokes raw, and the emotions that flowed through each canvas were undeniable. But as much as she poured herself into the art, there was a gnawing feeling in the back of her mind. What if it wasn't enough? The charity initiative was growing, gaining more attention than she had anticipated. The press began covering her story, and people from all walks of life reached out to her, donating, sharing, offering support. Her paintings, once just a way to survive, were now seen as symbols of strength, resilience, and hope. People were starting to believe in her in a way she had never imagined. Yet amidst the flurry of activity, there was one thing Emma couldn't shake. The feeling that this all might slip through her fingers, that the life she was building, the new sense of purpose, might be taken away from her in an instant. The day of the exhibition arrived, and the air in the gallery was thick with anticipation. The walls were lined with her art, each piece illuminated under soft lighting. Emma stood in the corner of the room, her hands nervously adjusting the hem of her dress, watching as guests filtered in. Elon Musk was supposed to be arriving soon, and she couldn't help but wonder if this was the moment where everything changed. What would he think of my work? What if he doesn't see me the way he did before? She couldn't quiet the questions swirling in her mind, but she knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about her paintings anymore. This was about the people, whose lives had been touched by her story, the people who had followed her journey, and the ones who had helped her along the way. It was about something bigger than herself. A familiar voice broke her thoughts. "You're doing great, Emma. You've got this." Grace stood next to her, a comforting presence in the chaos of the evening. She smiled warmly at her friend, offering her a small hug. "You look incredible, by the way. I'm so proud of you." Emma smiled back, though her nerves were still palpable. "Thanks, Grace. I hope this goes well. I hope people really connect with my work." Before Grace could respond, the door to the gallery opened again and in walked Elon Musk. Emma's heart skipped a beat. There he was, the man who had given her this incredible opportunity. He looked just like he did in the media, sharp, confident, but with a hint of curiosity in his eyes as he surveyed the room. His assistant approached Emma, giving her a brief nod of acknowledgement. "Elon will be with you shortly. He's just speaking with a few of the donors." Emma nodded, trying to maintain her composure, but her hands were shaking. This moment had been months in the making, and it was finally here. She was standing at the crossroads of everything she had worked for, the art, the charity, the chance to make a difference. But was it enough? As she looked around the gallery, Emma saw the faces of so many people who had supported her along the way. Her mother, her friends, strangers who had become friends, everyone who had helped her push forward when she had wanted to give up. They were all here, cheering for her. The sound of footsteps behind her made Emma turn around. Elon Musk was standing. There, his gaze focused on the paintings. For a brief moment, it felt as if time stood still. "Emma," he said, his voice calm yet filled with sincerity. "These are extraordinary." Her breath caught in her throat. She had never expected Elon Musk to say that, at least not in such a personal way. She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It means the world to me that you're here." Elon looked at her, his expression softening. "I'm honored to be part of your journey. Your art, your story. It's powerful. People need to see it, and they will." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had fought so hard to get here, to be seen, to be heard. And in this moment, standing in front of the man who had helped turn her life around, she finally felt like she was being seen for who she truly was. More than just a cancer patient, more than just an artist and a survivor. As they continued to talk about the charity initiative, the future of her art, and the ways they could collaborate to help others, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight lift off her shoulders. She was no longer just a woman struggling to make it. She was part of something bigger, something that could change lives, not just her own, but the lives of others who were fighting similar battles, but just as she thought she was beginning. To catch her breath, a new voice interrupted the conversation. "I think we have a lot to discuss, Emma." Emma turned around to see a man standing next to Elon. He was tall, with a sharp suit and a businesslike air about him. He looked familiar, but Emma couldn't place him. He was someone important, that much was obvious. Elon turned to the man. "Ah, yes, this is Richard, one of our major investors." "Richard, this is Emma, the artist I've been telling you about." Richard extended his hand, his expression unreadable. "It's a pleasure, Emma," he said coolly. "I've heard a lot about you." Emma shook his hand, her mind racing. Investors? What did this mean? Were they really going to take control of her work now? As she pulled away, Richard's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than felt comfortable. Then, In a tone that sent a chill through her spine, he added, "I think we need to talk about the next steps and your future with this project." The room suddenly felt smaller, and Emma couldn't help but wonder, was this the moment everything changed again? Was this the beginning of something new, or the start of a battle she hadn't expected? Her pulse quickened. One thing was certain. Nothing was going to be the same after tonight and the twists of her journey. They were far from over. The days following the exhibition were a blur. Emma tried to process everything. Her art, the charity initiative, the overwhelming support. But there was something about that last conversation with Richard that kept gnawing at her. His cold demeanor, the way he spoke about the next steps like she was a project, not a person, it unsettled her. Her phone buzzed incessantly with emails, messages, and calls. She had been receiving praise from all corners of the world. People admired her paintings, they were touched by her story, and the charity auction had raised more money than she had ever dreamed. Yet despite the accolades, Emma felt a shift in the air, an unease that she couldn't shake. Elon had told her to trust the process, that things would unfold as they were meant to. But Richard was a different story. The following week, Emma agreed to meet with him at a high-rise office in downtown LA. The meeting was scheduled under the pretense of discussing future collaboration and potential funding for her work. But deep down, Emma knew there was more to it than that. She arrived at the sleek glass building, its reflective surface catching the late afternoon sun. As she walked into the lobby, her nerves kicked into overdrive. The place had the kind of sterile, impersonal feel that made her uneasy. Everything about it felt like business, a stark contrast to the vibrant, passionate world she had built with her art. A secretary greeted her and led her to an elevator that took her up to the top floor. When the doors opened, Emma was immediately hit with the buzz of an incredibly busy office. People were working at desks, rushing past her on the phone, making deals. Richard's office, however, was a study in minimalism, sleek, cold, and entirely too quiet. "Emma," Richard greeted her, standing from behind his desk as she entered. His smile was polite but distant, his handshake firm. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," Emma said, trying to keep her composure. She had been nervous enough to doubt her decision to even come, but she had to know where this was headed. They sat down, and Richard immediately dove into business. He spoke of expansion, scaling up her brand and bringing her work into mainstream galleries across the country. But it wasn't about the art anymore. It was about profit. She could feel it. "Your paintings are valuable, Emma. More than just beautiful. They're an investment, and with the right kind of backing, we could take this to a whole new level. You could become a household name." Emma swallowed hard, her gut instinct telling her that something was off. This wasn't the conversation she thought she'd be having. She had expected excitement, yes, but not this cold, calculating approach. She leaned forward, her voice steady. "I didn't get into art to become a brand, Richard. I'm not interested in becoming just another face in the crowd. My paintings are personal. They're about the journey I've been through, not about turning a profit." Richard didn't miss a beat. "Of course, I understand that. But think about it. This is a chance for your story to reach millions. You have the opportunity to inspire people on a global scale, and we can help you make that happen. But in order to do that, you need to think bigger. You need to think about your legacy." Emma recoiled slightly at the word. Legacy? It felt heavy, like something being thrust upon her that she wasn't sure she wanted. She had always painted for herself, for her own healing, for her own expression, not for the world to dissect. But Richard's words lingered. Think bigger. Think legacy. She felt cornered, caught between the life she had built with her art and the overwhelming expectations of the world around her. It was all moving so fast, too fast. "Emma," Richard continued, leaning back in his chair, "I know this might seem overwhelming, but let's be real. You're at the top right now. You can either ride this wave and build something that lasts, or you can let it pass you by. The choice is yours, but I think we both know what the right decision is." The weight of his words was suffocating. She knew she had a chance to do something huge, something that could change not just her life, but countless others. But at what cost? The thought of her mother, still fighting her own battle with cancer, flashed through Emma's mind. Was this what she wanted for her? To be consumed by expectations, by the pressure of a legacy that wasn't even her own? She stood up abruptly, her decision clear. "I'm sorry, Richard. I appreciate the offer, but I don't think this is the path I want to take." Richard's face faltered for a moment before he quickly masked it with a tight smile. "I see. Well, Emma, if you ever change your mind, the door is always open." Without another word, Emma turned and walked out of his office. As the elevator doors closed behind her, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The world outside felt different. She was free. For now, at least. As the days passed, Emma found herself reflecting on the meeting. She knew she had made the right decision by rejecting Richard's offer, but a new set of questions started to form in her mind. If she wasn't willing to let others take control of her art, then what would she do? Where would she go from here? It was a familiar feeling, the uncertainty of not knowing what the future held. But this time it was different. For the first time in a long while, Emma wasn't afraid of it. She sat down at her easel the next morning, picking up a brush with renewed purpose. She was no longer just fighting for survival. She was painting for herself. For the first time, she was painting for the future. The road ahead would be difficult. It would demand sacrifices, choices, and painful moments of self-doubt. But one thing was certain. Emma was no longer willing to let anyone dictate her journey. Her story was her own. And she was just getting started. Emma's resolve only grew stronger after her meeting with Richard. The clarity she'd gained from turning down his offer pushed her forward, back to the canvas, back to the work she had always loved. She no longer needed the validation of big names or corporate backers. She had found a different kind of strength, one that was deeply rooted in her art and her story. But life, as always, had other plans. One afternoon, a few weeks later, as she was preparing for a new series of paintings, her phone rang. She saw a name flash on the screen, Elon Musk. Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't heard from him since the exhibition. She answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Hello, Elon." "Emma." His voice was calm but carried a sense of urgency. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "No, not at all," Emma replied, her mind racing. "What's going on?" There was a brief pause on the other end before Elon spoke again. "I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation, about your art, your mission. And I want to help." Emma's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "You've turned your struggle into something incredibly powerful," Elon continued, "and I think the world needs more of that. So, I've made arrangements for you to take your art to a global stage. I've been in touch with some people at a few art organizations, and they're willing to help fund your next exhibition. This time it won't be just for charity. It will be for your career, your future." Emma was stunned. This was exactly what she had wanted, an opportunity to share her art with the world. But there was something about Elon's offer that felt different than Richard's. It wasn't just about fame or profit. It felt personal, like Elon had seen something in her that mattered beyond the surface. "I don't know what to say," Emma started, her voice shaky with emotion. "I never expected anything like this." "You don't have to say anything," Elon said gently. "I believe in you, Emma, and I think this could be the start of something truly remarkable." They spoke for a little while longer, discussing logistics, dates, and possible venues. Elon made it clear that he wanted to be involved, not just as a backer, but as someone who genuinely believed in her work. The sincerity in his voice reassured Emma, but a part of her remained cautious. She had learned the hard way to trust her instincts, and right now they were telling her that this could be something beautiful. That evening, Emma sat on the balcony of her apartment, staring out at the city below. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the streets, and she felt a deep sense of peace. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she was in control. But there was more to it than just her art. What if this opportunity wasn't just about her? Her mind drifted to the patients she had met during her treatments, the faces of people who had shared their struggles with her, people who had reached out to her for support. She realized that her paintings were no longer just a way for her to survive. They had become a bridge to something bigger. Through her work, she had the chance to give others hope, to show them that they weren't alone in their fight. Emma knew now that her path wasn't about seeking fame or approval. It was about making an impact. She wanted to use her art to spark something in others, to make them believe in their own strength. She wanted to create a space where survivors, fighters, and dreamers could come together and see themselves reflected in the power of color and emotion. The next morning, Emma got to work, pouring herself into the new series that would define this next phase of her journey. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and responsibility. She knew that this was her moment, and she wasn't going to waste it. Weeks later, the night of the global exhibition arrived, and the gallery buzzed with energy. The space was breathtaking, a massive venue with towering walls, sleek floors, and soft ambient lighting. Emma's paintings adorned the walls, each piece telling a different chapter of her life, her struggles, and her triumphs. Elon Musk had kept his word. He was here along with some of the world's most influential art collectors, philanthropists, and media personalities. But for Emma, the most important thing was the faces in the crowd, the people who had followed her journey, the ones who had supported her, and the ones who needed her story to give them hope. The evening was magical. People moved through the gallery, admiring her work, discussing her process, and connecting with the story behind each piece. Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her art had the power to move people in a way she had never imagined. As the night went on, Elon approached her once again. He was standing near one of her most recent paintings, his eyes fixed on it with quiet admiration. "Emma," he said, his voice warm, "this piece, there's something about it. It's different from the others. What's the story behind it?" Emma joined him, looking at the painting, a swirling mix of vibrant blues and reds with a figure at the center, rising out of the chaos. It was a representation of her own journey through illness, the battles and breakthroughs, the emotional highs and lows. "It's about rebirth," she explained, "the moment when you think you've lost everything, and then you find something new, something unexpected. It's the hardest part of the journey, but it's also the most beautiful." Elon nodded thoughtfully, his gaze still locked on the painting. "I can see that. It's powerful." Before Emma could respond, a young woman approached them, her eyes wide with excitement. "Are you Emma?" she asked hesitantly. "I just wanted to say how much your story has meant to me. I'm a cancer survivor too, and your art, it's made me feel like I'm not alone. I've been following your journey, and it's inspired me to keep fighting." Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she smiled at the woman, a deep sense of connection between them. "I'm so glad my work could help," Emma said softly. "We're in this together, you're not alone." The woman smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you." As the night wore on, Emma continued to hear similar stories from people in the crowd, survivors, fighters, dreamers, who had found strength in her art. And with each conversation, Emma realized that this was what she had been meant to do all along, not just paint but connect with others in a meaningful way. She wasn't just creating art, she was creating a movement, a space where people could heal, grow, and dream. And for the first time in her life, Emma felt truly alive. The unexpected gift she had received, this chance to share her story, her art, and her heart, had turned into something far beyond her imagination. It was no longer just about survival. It was about living with purpose, and that purpose, it had only just begun. The months following the exhibition felt like a dream, each day more surreal than the last. Emma's life had changed in ways she had never anticipated. The global exhibition, supported by Elon, had skyrocketed her into the spotlight, but she had stayed true to her vision. She was no longer just an artist. She had become a symbol of resilience, of the power of transformation through art. The gallery show had far exceeded her expectations. People were not just buying her paintings, they were sharing their stories with her. Stories of illness, of loss, of hope, and of the incredible strength it took to keep going each day. Emma had received countless messages from people around the world, some simply thanking her for the light she'd brought into their lives, others opening up about their own struggles with illness and survival. But through all of this, Emma had remained grounded. She had learned to prioritize what truly mattered: her health, her art, and the people who had been with her from the beginning. The rest, she knew, would fall into place. One day, a few months after the exhibition, Emma sat at her studio, gazing at the latest canvas she was working on. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden glow through the large windows, and she felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. The strokes on the canvas reflected what she felt inside, a sense of calm after the storm, a quiet acceptance of the journey she had been on. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. She picked it up and saw a message from Elon. "I've been talking to a few people. There's a new project I think you should be a part of. It's something big, an initiative to raise awareness for cancer research, using art as the main focus. We'd love to have you on board. Let me know if you're interested." Emma smiled softly. The thought of her art playing a role in such an important cause was both humbling and inspiring. She had come so far, and now she had a chance to give back in a way that felt meaningful. But this time it wasn't just about her. It was about something much bigger than any individual. She immediately typed a response. "I'd love to hear more. Let's set up a time to discuss." As she sent the message, she realized how much she had grown. There was a time when she would have hesitated, afraid of taking on too much or not being able to handle the pressure. But now, after everything she had been through, Emma understood the importance of embracing opportunities, of trusting in her ability to handle whatever came her way. And so the next chapter of her journey began. A few days later, she met with Elon at a cafe, where he shared more details about the initiative. It was an ambitious project that would bring together artists, scientists, and cancer patients to raise both awareness and funds for research. The goal was to create a series of global events where art would be used to tell the stories of those affected by cancer, with a portion of the proceeds going toward life-saving research. "We're going to need your expertise, your passion," Elon said, his tone sincere. "This could change the way the world views cancer and the fight against it. And your story, Emma, it's the heart of this project." Emma was moved. This was exactly the kind of initiative she had been hoping for, a way to make a tangible difference, to use her art as a vehicle for change. It felt like everything had come full circle. The pain she had endured, the challenges she had faced, it all had meaning now. She was no longer just an artist creating in isolation. She was part of something much larger than herself. "I'm in," she said, her voice filled with certainty. "Let's do this." Over the next few months, the project took shape. Emma collaborated with other artists and organizations, creating powerful art pieces that told the stories of cancer survivors, their families, and their caregivers. Each piece was a window into the heart of the battle, a testament to the strength and resilience of those who fought every day. Emma's own paintings became the centerpiece of the initiative, representing not just her own struggle, but the collective struggle of millions of others. The first global event took place in New York City, in a massive open-air gallery that spanned several city blocks. The event was a success beyond anyone's expectations, with thousands of people attending. There were speeches, performances, and exhibitions, all focused on raising awareness for cancer research. Emma's paintings hung in prominent locations, drawing people in with their raw emotion and beauty. At the event, Emma was invited to speak. She stood before a crowd of survivors, supporters, and art enthusiasts, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "This journey, my journey, has been difficult," she began, her voice steady. "But through the darkest moments I've learned that art can heal, it can inspire, it can bring people together. And this project, this initiative, it's a chance for all of us to connect, to share our stories, and to fight for something greater than ourselves." The crowd erupted into applause. For a moment, Emma allowed herself to absorb the energy in the air, the unity in the room. This was what she had been fighting for, the opportunity to use her voice, her art, to help others find their strength, just as she had found hers. The success of the event led to more exhibitions around the world, each one a testament to the power of art and community. Emma's paintings, once born from pain and isolation, were now symbols of hope, of survival, and of change. But perhaps the most meaningful part of it all came when Emma received a letter. It was from the family of a young girl named Lily, who had recently passed away after a long battle with cancer. The letter read, "Dear Emma, we just wanted to thank you for the gift you gave our daughter. She saw your painting and felt seen, heard, and understood. It gave her the strength to keep fighting until the end. You may never know how much that meant to us, but we wanted you to know that your art mattered. It will always matter." Emma folded the letter carefully, tears streaming down her face. She had always wanted her art to mean something, to make a difference in the world, and in that moment she knew that it had. Her journey had begun with fear and uncertainty, but it had led her to something beautiful, something bigger than herself. She had learned to trust in the process, to believe in her own strength, and to never stop fighting for what mattered. As she looked out at the bustling city from her studio window, Emma felt a quiet peace settle in her heart. The road ahead was still long, but she was ready. She had already come so far, and this, she knew, was just the beginning.